Hey everyone, Daniel Ramsey here with MyOutDesk. I'm excited because I've got my good friend Scott Royal Smith here, and today we're going to talk taxes. It's the end of the year, and as you know, it's time to save money on taxes, plan for income and asset preservation, and we got the guy to do it. He's a longtime real estate attorney and investor, so what I love about this guy is he melds legal and tax strategy together to help people save money and save and preserve your assets. Scott, thanks for being here today.
Awesome, Daniel. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's always such a pleasure to be able to come onto a show that's like yours, where we get to really dive deep into the subject matter, which is one of my favorite things, right? So I'm going to tell everybody, like, as you're listening to this show, pause it for a second and grab a pen and a piece of paper, because we're going to move quick through a bunch of really hardcore strategies that aren't going to be necessarily just like the tax components with it. That we're going to talk about, like solo 401ks, self-directed IRAs, how to maximize your tax deductions, especially if you're a real estate investor, but also how do you need to combine that with the right entity structuring, where you can compartmentalize and anonymize all of your asset holdings to make it look like you qualify for food stamps. And we're going to hit that all on today's episode. So grab a pen and paper right now, and I'll start laying down some knowledge on you guys.
There you go, man. I'm excited. You just broke down what we're going to learn today. Why I think it's important for everybody to be listening is that you're likely like me. I have a business. You're likely like me. I own real estate. And you're likely like me, and you have income and assets that you want to protect and taxes you don't want to pay. So we've got Scott here. Let's start with something that I've recently done to protect my company and our real estate holdings is a Series LLC. So let's talk about that real quick, Scott. I'm one of your clients, so that's also a good endorsement for anybody who's listening. It's definitely a good thing to kind of wrap. I mean, the way your entity structure is just kind of so unique. So let's start there and talk. How do you structure real estate holdings to protect your long-term investments?
Yeah, so no, Series LLC is the best tool that has ever been invented. It's been around for about 20 years now, right? I actually found out about the Series LLC through my own business in real estate investing. I've been doing that full time for probably about 8 years now. I mean, I got my first property while I was in law school. It was a transmission and auto repair shop that I had bought the building and the business for the back taxes. So I figured, I can't lose on this, baby. Well, it turns out to be a ton of work while you're trying to go through law school full time to be able to do that, right? So not a whole lot of sleep happened for those couple of years, but big payoff. And this is where I fell in love with real estate, is because when I graduated law school, I flipped the business and the building to be the only person in my class to graduate from school with no debt. And I loved it. It gave me the flexibility to go in and try something that I always wanted to do, which was being a hardcore litigation attorney. I mean, I worked for the district attorney both at the trial court and the appellate court. And I also worked in private practice and suing insurance companies, because come to find out, these profit-seeking corporation called insurance companies are really great at collecting premiums, not so great at paying out on the coverage when the rubber hits the road, especially when it comes to big claims, right? So as I was working and doing my legal work, I was still doing real estate until I found out I was making more money doing real estate than I was doing the law. So I just quit the law job. I was like, nah, I'm out of here. I'm going back in real estate because I love the passive income. I love the fact that I can build wealth with leveraged structures. I love the time freedom I'm able to create for myself, because I can see how my passive income is going to be able to create the time freedom for me to be able to focus on the things that I love to do. I mean, I love going canyoneering, jumping out of airplanes, being able to have a great time all around. And the most important piece for me was that it couldn't get taken away from me. Everything else that I had seen in life, it can get taken away from you in a snap, right? One bad lawsuit, one bad decision, one change in the market, and everything gets wiped out, right? And what I found out with the real estate investing is that the energy that I was putting in built like a machine. It was a juggernaut that was gonna eventually get me to financial freedom, which is where I've hit now a long time ago, right? And now my life is dedicated to helping other people get there. But at the time when I started, it was rough, because I was accumulating all of these assets, and I said, what the heck am I supposed to do? I'm an attorney and I can't figure this out. I need help with the legal, the tax, the insurance, the banking, the accounting, all of the pieces that come into play as we're scaling a real estate investment company. So what I did is I read all the books, and because I was a colleague and not a client, all of the authors would actually talk to me and share with me their secrets of how they are able to get these things to work. And what I did is I put that all in place for myself. And when I go to the meetup groups and the other types of networking groups that I was into at the time, people would ask me, Scott, what are you doing? How does everything that you're doing work? And so I would tell them, I say, hey, this is what it is. You know, I'm a huge proponent of just sharing everything I know with people, and that still continues as a fundamental value for Royal Legal Solutions. And come to find out that just by looking to share all of the information from people, they said, hey, can you help me set that up? And so eventually I accidentally started this law firm because it ended up being that I needed so many people needed my help that I found my niche of my way to have my big impact was being able to help other people lock up not just one small aspect of their life, but everything together. And that turns where we use the series LLC structure, and we're using anonymity trust, and we're combining the estate planning, and we're combining operating companies in conjunction with these series LLC entities. And I have to admit that I actually forgot your question by the time that I got through this.
Well, let's talk about the problem that you solve with a series LLC. I mean, as a real estate investor, I had so many different entities because this bank wanted it structured a particular way. This partner wanted to put in 20% of the equity. I put cash in this one, but not in that one. And this one was leveraged differently. So I ended up with like 7 different LLCs to hold 29 different properties. And I think your solution gets rid of all that complexity. So let's talk about the problem that the series LLC solves for people.
Yeah, so there's 2 fundamental problems that comes in when you're starting to scale in real estate, which happens at that 2+ property mark, where it makes sense to start using a series LLC. Or if you're located in California, you can use a Delaware statutory trust to be able to avoid franchise taxes. Another great way, and a little twist for those California people out there that are tired of getting hammered by the taxes. But the net effect is that with the series LLC or the DST, and for the purposes of this conversation, let's just talk about series LLC. Yeah. So for the series LLC, is that you're able to do one entity that you have to create and maintain that's filed with the state. Now you can create it in 4 different states that have strong asset protection, either Delaware, Texas, Nevada, or Wyoming. Those are the ones that have strong charging order protection for the LLCs. Now what we look for after that
Whoa. Let's define charging orders, because not all of us are attorneys. We get that those are the 4 most friendly states. I mean, you said Texas and Nevada, Wyoming, Delaware. That makes sense to anybody who's a business person. But what does it mean? Why are those 4 states the most important to set up your entity structure in?
Yeah, because the questions become is a couple of two different things that I look at. One, how well will these LLCs actually work if they're challenged? States like California, LLCs are almost worthless, right? Florida, same thing, right? So it matters where we form that LLC. That's why initially everybody was forming in Delaware and using it everywhere else. Delaware was the first out into the market space of saying, we're gonna have the most aggressive laws. Come to find out that these other states, right, they followed suit because they're like, I want some of that business too, right? So they entered into the marketplace, right? So that's where it comes in. Now, the legal term to define how strong an LLC is what's called charging order protection. So if you want to research that on your own, that would be to say, hey, what are the charging order protections of each of these different states? And you'll be able to find out why asset protection attorneys and real estate attorneys like myself look for only these 4 states, right? So it's a pretty deep inquiry into it, right? The other thing that I look for is what is my ongoing costs, right? So out of those 4 states, Delaware, Nevada, and Wyoming all have ongoing costs. Texas is the only state that doesn't. Right, so you can have the best protection with no ongoing costs if you form in the state of Texas, not just because I live here in Austin, Texas. I can form these up anywhere, right? But I just choose to use Texas because it allows us that extra ability to be able to form the LLC, have it be able to have strong protections, be able to make sure that's going to be cost effective. And what a lot of people don't know is that when you're in Texas, you can also create the series LLCs anonymously if you do them appropriately through a law firm, which means all of the entity structuring is not only anonymous on the paper, but because it's all structured through a law firm, and it all ties back to a law firm, then it's all protected by the attorney-client privilege. So it's actually the strongest level of anonymity you can have if you structure these through a law firm as well.
So people just couldn't find you to do a lawsuit is what you're saying. Or if they did, they'd come up to Scott and Scott would tell them to go away.
Yeah. So this is the way it works, right? Is because everything is hidden at every level. All of my clients' assets are hidden behind trust structures, both at the entity level and the individual asset level. So if anybody was ever looking in to say, hey, what does Daniel Ramsey own, right?
Yeah.
You get stopped by trust structures that are blind trust. They can't find anything else about them, that it looks like it all ties to a law firm. So what this means is that if anybody's looking to sue, they have to spend tons of money and resources and start taking big guesses about what can we get out of this lawsuit. So now it makes their job incredibly difficult and makes the lawsuit itself less appealing as a business venture, right?
Right.
Because now there's more risk associated with, will they ever be able to collect anything at all if they proceed with the lawsuit?
And that barrier is enough to stop people from going on a fishing expedition, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, we talk about anonymity as how you stop lawsuits before they ever start.
Right.
And the reason that we use the series LLC structure is because with the series LLC, we can compartmentalize every single asset for free. You're essentially able to create LLCs on your desktop at zero cost and with zero upfront cost and ongoing costs. So you get this infinitely scalable structure that doesn't get more complex as you grow, and it doesn't cost you anything as it grows. So if they do ever decide to sue, because just because somebody's anonymous doesn't mean they can't actually file a lawsuit in some way, right? It just becomes really difficult for them to do it.
Right.
But if they do, they get little to nothing. So it makes it where you disincentivize the lawsuit by shrinking the pool of assets that they can come after. So not only was it a pain and they had to spend a ton of money to be able to find out the information, and once they started the lawsuit, then they got really bad news that there's not much there to recover after. So what do you think they do? They either become very reasonable with their settlement amounts, or if I'm actually representing you in that litigation, which I do for clients all over the country in combination with whatever the local counsel is, we get those people to walk away. Right. By using the type of aggressive strategies I learned from the district attorney's office and also fighting with insurance companies.
I love it. I love it. So what you're saying is you have to file an LLC for every property, but now with the series, your LLC's there, you create your operating doc on your laptop and doesn't cost you anything. And it's infinitely, you can do 10 at a time for 10 different properties, no problem.
No problem at all, right? And you can hold anything in these series LLC. So your stocks, your cash, intellectual property. Really, at the end of the day, what I found out, Daniel, from my podcast, Real Estate Nerds, and being a part of groups of people that have net worths, that go into that 9-figure range, is that rich people don't own stuff and they don't pay taxes. And there's a really good reason for that, is because rich people don't own things. They have companies that control things for them. The reason why is because a rich person understands that if I ever get sued, I want to not have to care about it. And that's ultimately, at the end of the day, is the kind of peace of mind that we deliver, is the you don't have to care about lawsuits anymore kind of peace of mind. Nobody can touch you. Right. Into what we're trying to do. And so we're trying to get there in a couple of different ways, right? We're getting there with the anonymity. We're getting there with the series LLC structure because we can maintain everything out of one bank account as long as we have accurate accounting where we tag the income and expenses for each individual property. And that's the requirement that we have to have. But that's way easier than having 12 different bank accounts for all your LLCs and checkbooks like that comes into play. Likely you're able to screw that up too if you have too many LLCs, which means you create chinks in the armor. So simplifying your operations not only means that it's saving you time and money, but also means better protection for you as you go, because less opportunities to make mistakes. And we've combined that with the ownership of individual pieces of real estate with incorporation of land trusts. So each property that we advise our clients on, say most of the time close on the property inside of your personal name because that's how you're going to get best financing, right?
Right.
After the time of closing, transfer that property into the land trust that's owned by your series LLC. That's how we're going to create the anonymity. They'll see that you used to own it, but that you don't own it anymore. And by transferring it to the land trust, we avoid the transfer fees and taxes, which becomes exceptionally important for people that live in Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. If done correctly, we're the only firm that I know that knows how to do that correctly, by the way. And the other thing that we do is we're able to avoid the due on sale clause, because the transfer to a trust avoids the due on sale clause per the St. Germain Act. So you don't have to worry about the conditions of the mortgage keeping you from being able to transfer over. And we're able to do it all in-house. So then you have one person to contact to be able to do everything for you.
When do you think that this becomes important for a real estate investor? Like at what stage or net worth or business size do you typically find your clients saying, wow, this is amazing, or this really works, or this has been very valuable for me?
Typically we find, and here's my advice. If you're just getting started, right? And you have less than that $50,000 of total net worth, don't set any of this stuff up yet. Just use your insurance policies. If you want to be extra careful, incorporate an umbrella policy on top of just your normal liability policy and run with that. It's not the greatest protection, but it's going to help you in most circumstances, right? That are going to pop up, right? When you start getting above that $50,000, $100,000 net worth, then that's when it's going to make sense to go ahead and push to have the expense to be able to create all the entity structuring that's here in place. And the reason why is because at that place, at that $50,000 to $100,000 mark, now you're in the sweet spot for attorneys thinking that they can get paid. And if you have all of the assets in your personal name, there's tools like Data Tree that we can use to find any identifying piece of information that somebody has about you. We can find every asset you own. Right? And as well as what the mortgages are, what the total equity is going to be, we're able to easily find out how big of a target you are. So
with a push of a button, it's like as simple as
45 seconds is what it takes me to be able to find that out. And when I do the searches. So literally what's able to happen is that people will come into the office, will say, hey, I want to go sue Joe Blow. You might not even ask them, like, what happened? The first thing you might do is actually say, let's just go ahead and look at the assets. What can we go after? And then attorneys will work in reverse to find the claim when they know somebody's vulnerable, right? And this is a shady business, right? These are the frivolous lawsuit attorneys out there that I got to see and now that I work hard against to make sure that people stay protected into it, right? But it's so easy if you don't have it. So once you start having that net worth, you got to start thinking about anonymity and protection in place, because I have a friend of mine who lost over $3 million in real estate, and he was very well insured because he was operating under the assumption that insurance is enough to protect you and that insurance covers most all the claims, so I don't have to worry about it. And he had an umbrella policy in place. What he didn't understand is that insurance companies only protect you against negligence. They don't protect you against any other type of legal liability. So communications you're making by email, those are fraud claims, not protected by insurance. Any agreements that you're into contracts, those are breach of contracts claims, not protected by insurance. And you're probably doing these things every single day, right? And if you have assets in your personal name and you're making those email communications in your personal name, signing those contracts in your personal name, every single one of those things in this country is enough to have a lawsuit that could completely wipe out your assets, right? So for me, that's too much risk from the very get-go. So if you can afford to do more than insurance and you can't do like these complicated structures with the series LLC and the anonymity trust, fine, just create an LLC. Do something, right? There's stages that you can build this stuff like Lego blocks that's going to be affordable for you at no matter what level you're at, that you won't have to go back and redo. So if anybody's out there thinking like, man, I wonder if this stuff is complicated, if it's too expensive or whatever, those are the issues that I've had to work through of where does this stuff make sense for different people. So that's why I say, just reach out to us. We're going to help you figure out where that point's going to be for you and what's going to make sense for you both in the short term and long term.
I love it. Scott, thank you for joining us today. Real quick, what does it typically cost? And then we're gonna end for the day, but what does it typically cost to create a series LLC? And what can I expect in terms of how long it would take to actually get it done?
Yeah, so what we typically see is it costs people way less than $10,000 for real estate investors to get everything set up, everything protected with everything that I've talked about here today. Now, what we do in conjunction with that a lot of times is using solo 401k structures and self-directed IRAs to be able to save people up to $62,000 a year on their taxes. And they can use that money to then go make more investments and be able to use it in all kinds of ways to increase their net worth. So every single client that I've had come into RLS, we've been able to use tax structures that offsets all of the upfront costs to be able to create all of the entities that they need. So we're end up being a cost neutral solution for almost everybody at the front end. And year one, that means every other year people are making money by working with us.
I love that. What does and where would somebody find out how to get more information and kind of go through that process with you? How would somebody get a hold of you?
Yeah, if you just go to royallegalsolutions.com, that's where we're going to have all the information, royallegalsolutions.com. We have the ebook of the top 10 things you need to do to protect your assets. On the homepage, you're also going to find big buttons there that are saying, what type of investor are you? And that's targeted content for specific types of investors. So you're going to be able to walk through and say, what would these guys tell me? when I go through this journey with them. But the best thing to do, if you want to have a meaningful conversation of how we can help, is to take the quiz. It's at the very top of royallegalsolutions.com. I'll say, hey, are you on the path to financial freedom? Take the quiz.
Right.
Through that process, about 20 questions long. But what that does, it means in the very first conversation that we have with you, we're going to be able to start telling you about what strategies you need to be looking into and what resources we have on RLS to have a curated, personalized experiences of what exactly you need to be targeting from all of the investors we look at. We can look at your numbers and say, hey, this is where you're missing it. You're missing it on taxes. You're missing it over here. You're missing it over here. Here's the resources you need to be looking at. Let's go ahead and start that conversation.
Perfect. And if you're listening right now, in the show notes, we'll have a link to that spot so you can actually take the assessment. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today and talking about how to save our assets. That's a big deal.
Awesome, Daniel. Great to be here. Thanks so much.